As we get older, we often fall victim to two financial maladies: more month than money, or interest rates so high on credit cards they totally zap the monthly budget. Now, if either of these sound familiar to you, maybe a call to Fellowship Home Loans at 1-800-804-SAVE, 1-800-804-7283 would help. Maybe a refi to knock down those interest rates on credit cards, or a reverse mortgage to get you more money than month. Now, neither one of these may be your ticket, but unless you ask, you're never going to know. One thing is promised: you'll never feel any pressure at Fellowship Home Loans. They're there to help. Answer your questions. You make the final decision. Plus, you'll talk to a real human being and not a machine. How's that for old school? Fellowship Home Loans, 1-800-804-SAVE, 1-800-804-7283, or online at fellowshiphomeloans.com. Welcome home.
Come and get your loan, Fellowship Home Loans.
Intercontinental Capital Group, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Opportunity Lender, MLS number 60134.
The first impressions that I had of God were him continually saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you. I love you. But I love you. I love you. And I just remember one time in my kitchen going, why do you keep saying that? Why do I keep getting this impression of I love you? And then I just, in my spirit, heard, because you need to know.
Jo Dee Messina is my guest today on CIA, Contagious Influences of America. From the producers of Keep the Faith, I'm David Sams. Jo Dee, of course, recorded a great song one of the greatest songs in country music history, I think, Heads Carolina, Tails California. That made her a household name. Following the success of her debut, Jo Dee posted 9 number one hits, 16 top 40 songs, sold over 5 million albums worldwide, and was honored by the ACM Awards, the CMA Awards, and Grammy Awards. And, as her resume grew, she proved to be a trendsetter and a history maker, becoming the very first female in country music history to celebrate 3 consecutive multi-week chart-topping songs. So she's going to talk about that, and she's going to talk about her record label, Dreambound Records. And of course, she's an author. She's a mom, a wife, a daughter, sister, friend, speaker, a very gifted songwriter. And she's going to talk about the art of that, of songwriting. So I can't wait to get to this interview that I recently did with country music's Jo Dee Messina. Well, hello there.
Hello there.
How are we doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. I am loving the sunshine after the crazy rains, and preparing for more rains tomorrow.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's been a little nutty here.
Yeah, I'm next door. I'm over in Georgia, so we get it later.
Yeah. So how you been?
Doing okay. Busy.
Just
being a mom.
Yeah, being a mom. Being a mom during these very difficult, strange times, I'm sure. And here we are coming out of the dark, so to speak, into the light. And that's always a good thing. I want to talk a little bit about your story about coming out of the dark. I mean, we're all sort of experiencing this together, but I want to talk about some of the times that you faced personal darkness. What brought you out of that? Because there are a lot of people listening right now who have experienced something over the past year that they've never experienced before, and some of that's been compounded by their some of the personal things they've gone through. Regardless of what they are battling, what they're fighting, a lot of folks have gone through depression. A lot of folks have lost people they love. Others have lost jobs. You've certainly faced your challenges throughout your life, and I'd just like for you to tell us about one of those times, including when you faced cancer, and how you got through that darkness and onto the other side.
Ooh, okay. Well, you've just loaded the cannon.
There you go.
Golly, if you were to ask me that question 10 years ago, I suppose the answer would be different in my own gumption, to keep going. I don't even know where to start.
Well, and that's a good that's a good thing that it changes over 10 years, because that illustrates growth. It's a celebration of life, of getting through things, of getting through struggles, of hardships, and to the other side. Let's talk about your bout with cancer, how you got through that, what you struggled through, and
well, I think it goes back, and
how your faith played a part.
My faith was a huge part of that, but I don't often talk about it. It's a stepping stone in my life. It has gotten so much fame and glory through the ribbons and the stories behind it. And I remember just a couple months ago, I sat down and I said, man, my walk with Christ does not represent the literary arc of a story. And so the literary arc is you establish your characters, and then you run into your conflict and you reach the climax, and then there's the resolution. And that has not been my walk with Jesus. I'm stuck in the conflict. If we can back it up to even prior to that, about, I got to figure out, I'm going to say 7 years ago, where I got to the absolute complete end of myself, meaning everything that I built my life on crumbled. Who I am was my job. My success established my self-worth. My mother was my foundation. My marriage was the completion of what life is supposed to be in living a perfect life. And in the midst of all of that was still that hole that we all try to fill, and we all try to ignore, and we all try to, to pretend isn't there, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have to portray a certain thing. And especially, I didn't know Christ then. So my marriage went through a really hard time. Sadly, it did end. My mother became ill. She had heart surgery and lots of complications with that. My job came to a standstill. At that point, I was trying to get music released and they wouldn't release it. And I was like, oh no, my identity is being lost. So I was at the complete end of myself. Everything was no longer in my control. I couldn't push music out. I couldn't make shows come. I couldn't make my mother heal. I couldn't fix my marriage. I could, no matter all the do's and the trying and all that, I couldn't do it. And so this is, this is leading up to your question. That's why I say there are huge questions, and I don't even know where to begin. So I will start when Jesus walked into my life. So I was on my front porch. My mother had, every day was a life and death decision on her behalf. Whether it was taking the fluid off her lungs, trying to give her a tracheotomy to help her breathe and wake up, because she was, retaining carbon dioxide, and she wouldn't wake up for days at a time. And whether it was my marriage, which was in such a shambles, because it was not based on Christ. The Lord was not in the middle of it. It was of my own power, and my own wants. And so I'm here at this situation, and I'm about at my wit's end, and I look at my husband and I say, I am exhausted. I do not care if I don't wake up tomorrow. If I could sleep for 50 years, I would be so happy, because I was so tired. My kids were 1 and 4 at the time, and a baby. So I had little ones. And then I said, I need help. I can't float the ship anymore as far as my company was concerned. I can't make the decisions to help my mother. I'm exhausted. And he gave me a blank stare and walked into the house without saying a word. And at that point, it was just me alone on the front porch in the dark. And in my spirit, I was not at a church. I was not at an altar. I wasn't crying out. It wasn't your typical story of, I went to church with a friend and I accepted Jesus and I went to the altar and my life was great. And now everything fell away and now my life is perfect. It was not that story. And that isn't the story. That isn't the story that Christ promises us. But I was on my porch staring off into the distance and I was alone. And there was no one could help. And all the friends that I supposedly had were nowhere to be found. And so it was just me. And I remember standing there just staring with nothing going through my mind and nothing. I was just blank. And in my spirit, I sensed the words, heard the words. I say here, but it's not an audible, but I just had this sense in my spirit of no. She's mine. And I lived next door to a man named Steve Green at the time. We've both moved since then. But I knew that it was Jesus. I didn't know Jesus then, but I knew it was him. And I went next door and I started rapping on their door the next day going, Steve, Mary Jean, Steve, you got to tell me about this Jesus. Because he showed up on my front porch last night. And so that was, 3 to 4 years. 3 years later is when, I started to they gave me the knowledge, the head knowledge of Christ, who he was, what he did. And of course, so many of us need that intellectual understanding of God or Christ or Jesus or why do I need a savior? I'm perfect. I never thought that, but some do. So we try to come to the intellectual understanding of that. And so that's what I was going to my neighbors to tell me why. I was like, when did he become sin? What does this mean? He became sin. When? What does that mean? How did he give us I was hitting them with all these questions of how does he make it us able to go to God? When did that happen? When was that moment, that very second? Like when I had to make intellectual sense to me. And they explained Christ on the cross and when the sky went dark and when he when the veil was torn from top to bottom, and they explained all this to me, and then set in the hunger to know more, the hunger to spend more time with him, the hunger to just pull back from the insanity of what was my life at that point and say, I want you. I want that moment again. I want that moment when I knew it was just me and you there. So I started to, spend a lot more time in the Bible. I enrolled in the King's University down there in South Lake, Texas. I would fly down twice a week to go to classes. I was going through all of the mental knowledge or the intellectual knowledge of getting to know Christ, and then spending time in Bible study and just getting to know and spending time with him. The first impressions that I had of God were him continually saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you. I love you, but I love you. I love you. And I just remember one time in my kitchen going, why do you keep saying that? Why do I keep getting this impression of I love you? And then I just, in my spirit, heard, because you need to know. And so fast forward a little bit more, and my marriage had fell apart. I was in the process of going through a divorce. It was very sad. And the first time I think I've admitted it publicly. And it was a very sad time. 7 weeks after that filing, I was diagnosed with cancer and had 2 little boys. I was a single mom trying to figure out how to get my feet under me. And I think in the midst of that is when I wrote the song Bigger Than This. It was in the midst of that where it wasn't about whether I lived to see tomorrow, because God is bigger than my life. He's bigger than my time. He's bigger than and a lot of people will hear that song as God is bigger, and he will bring restoration, which he does. But I had to be okay if that wasn't the end story. So at that point in time, everything that I read about, said I believed, worked on in my prayer, all of that stuff came to a test. Do you believe that God is good? Yes, I do. Do you believe that I know he's good? That's all he is. He is goodness. And so, do you believe that he is in control? He is all powerful. Yes, I do. Do you believe that he loves your children as much as he loves you? And if you're not here tomorrow, does that mean, oh my gosh, no, that was my control saying, I want to be here to raise them. I got to be here to raise my kids. And I was like, okay, that was put to the test. It was, do you not trust me? No, I do trust you. Do you trust me? No. So I had to work through so much with my diagnosis, with, all the situations that were going on in my life at that point, that there was a constant communion with God and with just dealing with emotions and figuring out and that is how he worked. People would show up, things would happen. Doctors, like I met with, two of the doctors that had to do surgeries on me, and I knew one of them. And I'm like, really? You're one of my doctors? I'm like, this is amazing. And so just little by little, I would see how he would creep into every situation, not creep in, but he would show up in every situation. And the only why me, I had written about this too. The only why me that I ever had in that whole walk was why me. Most of my life, I never knew you. I knew of you. I celebrated Easter. I celebrated Christmas. Woo, thanks. But I didn't know you. I didn't know you. I didn't hear your voice, or I can look back now and see where he showed up. But at that point, I was like, why do I get to see your hand at work every day, every step, every moment in this process? And that was pretty much, the whole walking through all of my surgeries. The revelations I had there were massive, because when I went in for my first surgery, it was major. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to wake up and I'm not even going to be the person that I once was. And I woke up and I'm like, I'm still here. I'm still me. And that was a revelation of who we really are. We are not this body, this tent, as Paul calls it. We are the spirit within us. That was the very thing that was created in his image, was what is deep inside of us, what is there even in the midst of, going through massive surgeries and waking up physically different. And so I don't know, I dumped a lot on you, but I mean, you asked the question, and that's why I don't do a lot of this, because I'm like, it's so massive to condense it down to like little sound bites. It's beyond difficult. God can't fit in a sound bite.
No, hey, you know what? I love where you're going with this, and I love your story. And I want to go deeper. Let's go deeper.
Okay, I'm there.
You're not scaring me here. You're not messing with me here. You're okay. Telling it like it is. So let's go even deeper.
All right. You want to go ahead?
Yeah. No.
I'm ready.
No, I want you just to continue, okay? Because you've got more to tell me.
Well, I mean, there is a lot more. There's, I wrestle with things, like everyone else. There is, like I said in the beginning of this, my walk with Christ doesn't follow the literary arc. That's not a beginning and a middle and an end. I'm kind of stuck in the beginning, not in the sense of my maturity and my relationship with him, but as far as me as a person. So you got to figure, I met Jesus later in life. I have a whole lifetime of conditioning that is on my back, in the sense of, if you ever hear someone say, well, the Lord told me, you better get out of there. or someone else was like, the Lord told me, remove yourself from this. And it all sounds so different. Well, for me, excuse me, I have allergies.
No, so do I.
For me, I've started to realize that the way we respond to things is our earthly conditioning. We are born and raised by human beings here on earth. And I learned to strive, and I learned to be driven and be tenacious and plow forward. And sometimes I swear that the Lord's got to be, I know his patience is endless, but I must get close. I must get close to the end of his patience, because there are times when I revert back to, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, this is going to happen. Well, I'm gonna, and it's like, no. And so he has now taken me from the life that I've known. I live in the state of Georgia. I didn't know a soul in Georgia when I moved here. I was like, of all places, I'm not sure why you brought me here,
Mm-hmm.
but it's almost like leading me out into the wilderness. So my one and only dependence is on him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you run into life where, here's somebody that people see as a celebrity, but really we had this conversation just last night. I'm the hockey mom. I'm at the rink with my kids. I'm working the concession stand. I'm just like you, but yet there's this preconceived notion, and that notion comes under attack, especially when you live in a small town. So my immediate response is, look, I'm gonna fight back. You can't say this. This isn't right. And Jesus is like, take up your cross. Give up the need to be right. You are the only chance in this situation that someone has to experience love. So I struggle with that. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it, God. I can't show them what love is. I can't. And he's like, I know you can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I can. So if you just look at me, if you keep looking at me as opposed to all the talking heads around you, if you just keep looking at me, let me work through you, and I will work through you, and I will show you. And so there have been situations where I've gone right up to people who have unkind things to say, and I force myself to be nice. And then there are situations where I've walked up to people who have had unkind things to say, and I just don't know any other thing but to be as nice. So that's the difference of me trying to do it on my own and me letting the Lord flow through me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's so much. It's funny. There's a song. Oh, I'm sitting right here. You can edit this out. I'll give it a pause. The make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. You know that song, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I came here with nothing, but all you have given me, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Well, you can't, I'm just having me sit in front of my keyboard. If we knew the definite meaning of that song, would we sing it so freely? If it means put me in the midst of people that can't stand me, that don't know me, that don't understand me, so that I can show your love, would you really be like, make me a vessel, make me an offering? Because that's really easy to do when you're sitting around with people that have the same beliefs and know the Lord and that are kind and all about service and whatever. It's not easy to do when you're placed in the middle of people who go to church every Sunday, but yet have their teams of bullies that team up against each other,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Within the community. And so I'm like, I asked for it. So, but the only way to withstand it is him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, now that you did a little concert for me there, first of all, thank you for that. And thank you for bearing your soul on that, because I know that's going to help so many folks. And I love your authenticity and just putting it out there. That means a lot. And you have, over the last couple of years or so, you have dabbled in and sort of done some music that is somewhat new to you and new to folks that have followed you, including, I know you did Reckless Love, a rendition of that. But I want to go back a little bit because I launched I don't know if you know this, but back in '95 I launched the Keep the Faith music collection, which was all over the country, and actually it's the number one box set in Christian music history. But and then 10 years ago we launched the Keep the Faith radio show, which is now the number one faith-based show in the nation, and we're in the U.S., Canada, UK, Australia. But you did a song years ago, Keep the Faith, that you wrote.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, I bet you do. Now, which, by the way, I love. I love that song.
Thank you.
I'm going to challenge you to remake it, and I'll put it on our playlist.
Oh, remake it as in?
I want you to do it as in 2021. We are in 2021, right? Let's talk about bringing that thing up to speed for now. Let's put it on our playlist. I know. I know that sounds a little crazy, doesn't it? But by the way, you do have your own record company now. Can't you do whatever you want? And by the way,
yeah, but anything that was recorded with my previous record label is no longer mine. I don't own it. I had to sign it away to get off of the label.
Oh, you can't.
I can't, and I can never be re-recorded again, even if I wrote it.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a lousy deal. Who negotiated that?
Well, here's the thing, though. So everything is new. So all of my writing is new. And most of my writing is from a place of worship and reverence. And so we'll have to get stuff to you. And I did cut Reckless Love, but I cut that song because I hope that people outside of the Christian format, everybody knows that song. If you go to church, or if you listen to Christian music or whatever, everybody knows that song. But there are those who never even heard it. Yeah. And so I was hoping that someone would stumble onto that and go, you know what? Okay, God. Because, man, it blows me away. Whenever someone will tell you how God is in the sense of he's this, this, and this, and there's the end. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm like, he's not. You can't put him in a box. You can't figure out all of what he is. The greatest teachers will tell you, I can tell you attributes of God. I can't put everything all together and sum him up, And so, yeah, there's a whole lot of newness that's coming out these days.
Well, I want some of your new material. I want to hear it firsthand, and I'll get that to John Frost, our guru programmer. And no, I'm serious. We're on like 300 sticks across the country, including all the big stations. So,
I know, and I feel bad because, see, the biggest thing in my heart is and when I speak to you, I feel bad because I know that someone's listening to this going, what the heck is she talking about? And that's the one that needs to hear it the most. I want to take all of the Christian ease, all that we know, and we're like, oh, lay it at the cross or give it to Jesus or whatever, all these things, and simplify them so that, because I know that I went to church and I know that I heard what people said and I know I didn't get what that meant. I was like, yeah, okay. I must be a failure because I don't understand what this means. When these very things, if you were to simplify them, what does it mean to keep your eyes on Jesus? And describe that so that people can read it and go, oh, I get it now. Oh, I understand what that means. So the non-believer has a non-believer, but the person that doesn't have a relationship with Christ can have that relationship with him. So that's where my heart is constantly for the non-believer, because I was a non-believer for most of my life. Mm-hmm, I didn't know Jesus. I didn't know his voice. I didn't know, I didn't know his heart. I didn't realize that I was, fighting constantly to matter in the world where mattering to him is more fulfilling, So I feel bad if people got lost in my conversation, because sometimes I would get lost before I knew him. So I don't know.
Well,
My heart is constantly going for I don't want to say non-believer, but I want to say people that just don't know him, people that haven't had a relationship with him. Because once you have that little teeny taste, you're like, wait a minute, there's the puzzle piece. There's a piece of me that's missing. I want more. I want more of that.
Well, you know what? It's I mean, for myself, I'm a PK, a preacher's kid.
Oh, you're the one that got in all the trouble.
Exactly. Yeah, I could tell you stories. But you know, I was born into the faith. I cried out for years and years. I wonder why everybody else around me, not everybody, but a lot of people around me had a story, had a that come to Jesus moment, had a testimony. And I always felt like I was robbed of that because I was born into the faith, so to speak. Then about, what was it now? 15 years ago, my wife walked out on me and it all fell apart. I was in Hollywood. I had all the accolades, like as you have in country music, and won Emmy Awards, produced and distributed the biggest shows in TV history, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy to Oprah, and my whole life fell apart. That's when God gave me my story. My wife walked out and Jesus walked in, and it is still evolving. My faith is still evolving, and I'm tested all the time. Even being in the center of this universe in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm not in Hollywood anymore. You would think it'd be a little easier, right?
It's like a little baby Hollywood, though.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. The walk that you have taken us through here, you know, we all have our own experience, but it's just so cool when someone takes you by the hand and kind of walks you through it as you have here. And that is very meaningful, and I know it's going to be for a lot of folks. And by the way, we could continue this on for an hour. You know,
I know. I need to learn to condense my story, and I thank you for your patience because. No,
by the way, I love the story. I love your story
in there.
Yeah,
I'm still in such awe over, and if I ever go to speak places, I want to point out, number one, the realness of God. He's not a creature. He's not just the realness of his existence. That alone is months of teaching. And then just what he's done in my life is another. And so I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak of it, but also I get to hone it in and go, wait a minute. I covered 75 bases on that interview, and I may have lost the very person that needs to hear it. I
loved every word of it. I know. No. I loved every word of it.
But you also have that background. Someone may tune in and be like, I've never listened to the show. I don't even know what this means. And it's that person that I don't want to lose.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, to go out and do evangelistic work is one thing. But to speak to people that have a relationship with Christ is another. So I don't want to lose someone who's never really experienced, the Lord working in their life, or recognized. I shouldn't say experienced, because we experience it, we just don't know it. Because I can look back at my life and say, oh my gosh, you were there. Oh, you were there. Oh my word. To experience it, we just don't know it. And so I don't want to lose those people by covering such a broad spectrum of my walk with him.
Well, here's the really cool thing. Okay, the radio is one thing, and we have to condense everything down to these sweet little minute and a half, 2 minute things between songs. And it is what it is. The really cool thing is that we've also got all of these people, all these wonderful people listening to to our podcast, our Contagious Influencers podcast, and that's where you get the real meat on the bone. And so now there's a place for that full story that you just don't get on the radio. Right. And more and more people are listening to the podcast. It's crazy. Are you doing a podcast?
I'm not. I spend most of my time doing laundry. I know it sounds funny, but I got a whole bunch of it downstairs. That's going to be, there's
gosh.
5 people in my family now. There's 3 boys, 6, 9, 12 years old, and me and my husband. So it's a lot of laundry. That is a lot of laundry, my friend.
So are you are you going on the road anymore? What are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are like COVID. It was so horrible. I mean, yes, it was a really rough time. And I myself, if I don't work, I don't get paid. So I myself am unemployed. They canceled all these shows. Now we're slowly coming back here and there. I'm still doing that. And I use that opportunity to share, what Christ has done with me. But I'm also free to go out and speak at churches and share in that atmosphere too. So it almost took my life. I spent more time writing. I spent more time, in my relationship with the Lord, being here with my family, giving everybody, everything was solid as opposed to touring all the time. Now I get the opportunity to restructure the way that I do that. But yes, I mean, we are out doing shows as they come back. Now shows this year are still being canceled because people are too afraid to buy the ticket, or they're not sure what, when the date rolls around, if they're going to be allowed to go out or whatever. And so right now, yes, I'm touring as much as what's being allowed. And I love it. And we go out and we do the hits that people know. And I share stories of where my life has been. And I still do that. My heart is right now sitting and writing, whether it's a song of worship or whether it's maybe an entry for a book at some point, whether it's that struggling of, I want to revert back to the way I used to deal things, which was so quick and responsive, as opposed to, sit back and go, okay, Lord, this is a situation and I can't do it. I got to have you do it. You know what I mean? So it's been a great time for me, but yes, we are touring. We are doing shows, playing the songs that people know, but, we are able to structure it differently now that we've had a complete shutdown last year.
Well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get me your worship music whenever you come up with a new song. I want you to send it directly to me. Okay. And I'll listen.
Okay.
I'll listen to it. And I will have John listen to it and our folks. And I would like to introduce it on our show. Okay. That number one. Number two, I'm going to invite you to, when we do that, for you to co-host that show that week. And the other thing I want to do is, every year we do the number one Christmas marathon across the country. It's called the Keep the Faith Christmas Marathon, and we also do one for country radio called the Contagious Country Christmas Marathon. And I'm going to invite you to be a co-host with me this year. How's that?
Oh, fun! Well, you got to let Nicole know about that. So
yeah, I'm going to do that because I am so honored that to have you tell your story, share your testimony, to talk about your walk with Christ, and I'm so tickled that you're doing worship music now along with your country hits. Thank you for sharing that extended story. You notice, if I was so concerned about you going on and on and on, I would have broken in and said, hey, by the way, you totally were engaged me, and I so appreciate it. And the authenticity is the number one thing, my dear. Authenticity. And you got it.
Well,
you got it.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
All righty. Well, thanks for hanging out with me.
Well, I appreciate it. If you need anything else or anything to be more succinct, just let Nicole know.
I will.
We'll redo it.
All right. No, we're not going to redo anything. You okay? But you just keep the faith and keep safe. Okay.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jo Dee. Wow. Wasn't that great? Wasn't that fun? She was so much fun to have here on the podcast. When they told me that she was going to come aboard, I'm like, wow, that's cool, because, well, she recorded, of course, her big hit, Heads Carolina, Tails California, but she also did a song called Keep the Faith, which, of course, I love, because our radio show, the number one faith-based show in America is Keep the Faith. And so I loved it when she recorded that. So thank you, Jo Dee, for coming on. And if you want to know more about Jo Dee, or where to find her, or find out about our tour dates, or if she's writing more songs or books or whatever, just go to JoDeeMessina.com. She has a great website, and she keeps you updated and informed, and she is just so cool. JoDeeMessina.com. Hey, I got to ask you folks a favor, and that is I need you to rate, review this podcast, and I need you to share it, because that's how everybody finds out about it, because we don't spend a dime in advertising. How about that? We just put it all into our radio show and all into our podcast here, and I really would appreciate it if you would share it with your friends. So please do that, and you can check out our website at KeepTheFaith.com. We just have great episodes of Keep the Faith on there for you to listen to. And also, you can check out our podcast website, which is ContagiousInfluencers.com. And there you can find, 120, 30 podcasts that we've done, and so many great interviews. Well, at least the people were great. I don't know about the interview, but the people were great. And I'm sure you'll have a good time listening to those. Hey, I want to ask you once again, please go out there and rate and review our podcast and share our podcast. That's the only way people know about us, and that's really important. So please do that. And most importantly, go out there and live that life in living color, because it sure is so much better than living in black and white. I'm David Sams. We'll see you next time.